So Nevada, not Nevada, Nevada. The preamble says that freedom, domestic tranquility, and to form a more perfect government. These are the three main reasons. These are the three main reasons why you have a Constitution of Nevada. Why do you have a Constitution of Nevada? Freedom, civil liberties, domestic tranquility, and to form a more perfect government. To form a more perfect government. Hey! What are you yelling at everybody for? Huh? That's, Chief Takatak. It's Chief Nez Pierce's twin brother. So I'm comparing and contrasting Colorado's Bill of Rights with Nevada's Bill of Rights. So Nevada is the battle-born state. Nevada is going to get formed in 64, 65, 1864. This is during the Civil War. Why is it the battle-born state? Because it was formed by Abraham Lincoln, by his pen. He signed off on it, and then you have Nevada. So Section 1 of the Bill of Rights says that our inalienable rights are life, liberty, property, safety, and happiness. So the preamble says we care about freedom, and we care about domestic tranquility, and to form a more perfect government. We also care about life, liberty, property, safety, and happiness. Those are inalienable rights. So those rights are eternal. They are forever. They come from nature. They come from the Constitution. Wherever they come from, they are forever rights. What are our forever rights? The right to be happy, the right to be safe, the right to property, the right to liberty, and the right to life. So the right to life, that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We get food and water and shelter. Then liberty, that's, freedom. That's the right to bear arms. That's the right to speak, the right to peacefully assemble, the right to petition, the right to freedom of the press, freedom of religion, to keep soldiers from living in our homes. Whole bunch of rights and freedoms. The purpose of government, according to Section 2 of Nevada's Bill of Rights, all power to the people. So it's for us. It's for we the people. The government is instituted for, number one, protection, number two, security, and number three, the benefit of the people. We have a right to alter or reform it when the public good requires it. But our paramount allegiance is to the federal constitutional government, the federal constitutional government. The supreme power is the federal government. So Nevada, being the battle-born state, is like we are the federal governments, and the governments are the feds, and the feds in America. We're Americans. We are Nevadans, but we're also Americans. America, America, America. So again, let's just, through the Section 1, Section 2, and the preamble, these are the first words in the Constitution of Nevada. So what does Nevada's laws care most about? Well, it cares most about civil liberties. It cares most about domestic tranquility, peace in the Middle East. There's a peace has descended upon the land to form a more perfect government. That means every day you wake up and say, okay, how do we make this government more perfect? Let's get better and better and better. Life, liberty, property, safety, happiness. We care about security, safety, protection. Those are all kind of the same things, and the benefit of the people. So all power to the people, the benefit of the people. So if we don't get, let's say, all those things, and it's a critical mass. Let's say most of the people of Nevada does not have a government that protects them, that does not have a government that protects their life or their liberty, their civil liberties, that doesn't provide for the peace, the domestic tranquility. You have a government that's not being more perfect every day. It's not doing shit that's to the benefit of the people. So a critical mass of people, their safety, their happiness, their property, their life, and their liberties are not being protected. Then we have a right to alter reform. So this is the right to revolution clause. But they word it in such a way, it's kind of saying, you got a right to revolution unless the federal government tells you no. Then you got to obey your federal government. We do have a strong centralized government, and depending upon the issue, the right to revolution comes from nature. So the right to freedom, domestic tranquility, form a more perfect government. We have a right to safety. We have a right to our lives, so we have a right to defend ourselves, and the right to defend ourselves for a nation is the right to revolution, which is eternal. So the right to revolution is an inalienable right, and we have a right to alter or reform the government of Nevada when the public good requires it. Now, trial by jury. Section 3, liberty of conscience, so freedom of religion, trial by jury, right to habeas corpus. This is all Nevada. In order to understand the basket of freedoms that you yourself, American, has, You got to look at the American Constitution, then you got to look at your state constitution. Then you put those two piles of freedoms together, and that's your basket of civil liberties. So trial by jury, freedom of religion, habeas corpus, we're doubling down on all the ones that America's already given us. But Nevada says, yes, you have a trial by jury. You can waive a civil trial, and in civil matters, only 3/4 of a jury is needed, unless the legislature changes it to unanimous. But you could waive a civil trial. You can, 3/4 of a jury is all that's necessary for a civil matter for them to make a decision. So, right to a trial by jury. Now, let's take a look at Colorado. Colorado, you have a right to due process. This is also America, the 5th and 14th Amendment, the right to a grand jury indictment for major accusations, including felonies. Specifically in the Colorado Constitution, it says you have a right to a grand jury indictment for felonies. Victims' rights, both states, Colorado and Nevada, have victims' rights. All critical stages of the criminal justice system. So they talk about the critical stages. They talk about a criminal justice system. They also say that the victim gets to be treated with dignity and respect and fairness, respect, dignity, fairness, and they also are to be free from intimidation, harassment, and abuse. This is also the same as Nevada. Nevada, eventually we're going to get to the victim's rights, which is Section 8A. And it's a long list of victims' rights. So Section 8A, Section 8 is the rights of the accused. Section 8A is the rights of the victims. So actually you should have the rights of the victims should come before the rights of the accused. But it's also the alleged victims. Until there's a determination, it's the alleged victim. So A, you have a right to fairness, respect, privacy, and dignity. The same thing as Colorado. You have a right to be free from intimidation and harassment throughout the entire the juvenile or criminal justice process. So once again, freedom from abuse, freedom from harassment or intimidation. Safety of the victim's family is considered for bail and release conditions. Prevent disclosure of confidential information or records, so that way the alleged defendant won't harass or locate the alleged victim or the victim's family. To retrieve an interview or disposition request, unless it's by court order, and then you need reasonable terms set for the interview. So we get to talk to him, right? There's the confrontation clause. We get to talk to the person. So I want an interview or a disposition. I want to go ahead and get him on the record and get his testimony out and about. So those are just some of the victims' rights. There's more to come with Nevada. And I only listed 3 here for Colorado. Colorado has a right to initiative, referendum, and recall. I'm not for sure if that's the case for Nevada. Referendum, initiative, and recall. I believe recall, 25% is what you need for recall. The right to a speedy and public and impartial jury trial. So very specific, right? But that's the 6th Amendment, and that's right at the top of trial by jury. So we all get a right to a trial by jury, and then the right to a speedy and public and impartial jury trial comes from the 6th Amendment. The right to the access to the courts. This is a Colorado freedom. This is not America, and I'm not for sure if Nevada is going to have this or not, but this is incredible. You have a right to the courts. Every person has a right to have access to the courts. You are a person, you live in Colorado, a crime has happened to you, you get a right to the courts. You get a right to call the police, you get a right to the courts, you get a right to be heard. So a right to have access to the courts, every person. The right to confront witnesses against you. That's the 6th Amendment. Right to subpoena evidence and witnesses for or against you. 6th Amendment. That's the rights of the accused. The right to due process. That's the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment. The right to due process. And then the right to grand jury indictment for major accusations. So we also have a right to bail, right to remain silent, the freedom from double jeopardy. That's the 5th Amendment, 5th and 7th Amendment, the right to bail. So habeas corpus. In Nevada, we get the right to habeas corpus. Only do we get to suspend habeas corpus during an invasion or a rebellion. If there's a rebellion or an invasion, so if they're trying to if there's a Confederate invasion, a Confederate rebellion, then you can go ahead and suspend habeas. So during emergencies, right, during martial law. But in general, if you're arrested, they got to tell habeas corpus means we have the body. And so they have to tell you why you are charged with the crime that you are charged with. So really it just means they got to tell you what you're charged with. And that's it. I mean, that's the bare minimum of what habeas corpus actually is. Excessive fines and bails are banned, so no cruel and unusual punishments, no excessive bail and fines in Nevada. The detention of witnesses cannot be for an unreasonable time, unreasonably detained. In fact, Colorado mentions how the witnesses need to get, a deposition right away, get them recorded, come in there, get their testimony, raise your right hand, swear to this, this, and that. And then if you need them to come back, then say, okay, you're required to come back. Because that would be crazy to hold a person for a witness reason for like months on end. Because you want witnesses and you want people to come forward. Because without witnesses, who's telling the truth? We have a liberty of conscience in Nevada, freedom of religion. Witnesses can't be discriminated because of religion. No licentiousness, anti-peace, or safety of this state. So as long as you do religion that doesn't break the peace or break the safety of Nevada, it doesn't mean you have the right to religion, but you're not, no licentiousness, meaning you can't go above and beyond. You can't sit there and say, well, my right to religion means I get to rape your wife. Nope, that's my religion. It says you get to rape thy neighbor's wife. And so that's bullshit that goes against the peace and the safety of the state. It goes against common sense. Religion is supposed to be for order and for goodness. So that doesn't apply to either one of those things. That's just a crime. Witness can't be discriminated because of religion. So there you go. You have the freedom to religion, and you can't be discriminated because of your religion. Your religion doesn't permit you to commit crimes. You can't break the peace or the safety of the people of the state. Trial by jury, I've already mentioned it. All power to the people. The paramount allegiance is to the federal constitutional government. Inalienable rights, life, liberty, property, safety, and happiness. The government is instituted for the protection, security, and benefit of the people, according to Section 2. Also, for civil liberties, domestic tranquility, and to form a more perfect government. So that's freedom of the press, the right to home rule. Colorado has the right to home rule. The right to serve legal papers, too. People v. Eric Neckel, Colorado 2019. You have a right at suits at common law. You have a right to a civil trial for anything over $20 according to the 7th Amendment. Excessive bail and fines and cruel and unusual punishments are banned. 8th Amendment, the right to, habeas corpus. The right to a lawyer is the 6th Amendment. So we have a right to habeas corpus. 6th Amendment, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2. Right to a lawyer, 6th Amendment is excessive bail and fines. So that's twice. Nevada and America is against excessive bail and fines, cruel and unusual punishments. The right to serve legal papers, suits at common law, anything that's over $20. The right to a jury trial for suits of common law is held to be sacred. You have a right to a jury trial for anything that costs you more than $20. The right to home rule, the freedom of the press, that's the First Amendment. Carrying right on, Section 8, the right to bail by sufficient sureties, not by capital offenses or murders punishable by life or prison. So not for capital offenses or murder. So you have a right to bail, you have a right to get out, but not if you murdered somebody, or not if you murdered in a way that's going to give you life in prison. Section 8, the rights of the accused, no double jeopardy. You have a right to due process of law, the right to eminent domain. Oh, they slipped that in. Eminent domain, how does that have to do with, okay, so not tried capital or infamous case, present indictment by the grand jury. So you have a indictment, grand jury, presentment. This is Section 8. This is Section 8. What is Section 8? Let's go ahead and just read it straight off. So the rights of the accused. No person shall be tried for a capital or other infamous crime except in cases of impeachment and in cases of the militia, when in actual service in the land and naval forces in time of war, or which this state may keep with the consent of Congress in time of peace, and in cases of petite larceny under the regulation of the legislature, except on presentment or indictment of the grand jury, or upon information duly filed by a district attorney or attorney general of the state in any trial in any court, whatever, the party accused shall be allowed to appear and defend in person and with counsel as in civil actions. No person shall be subject to be twice put in jeopardy for the same offense, nor shall he be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. Number 3, private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation having been first made or secured, except in cases of war, riot, fire, or great public peril, in which case compensation shall be afterward made. This is amended in 1912, 1996, and 2018. The First Amendment was proposed and passed by 1909. Do they say the Second Amendment was proposed? And okay, so the rights of victims of crimes. We got through like the first 5 of those to E. So we got to do F on down to Q. There's a whole bunch, like I said, there's a whole shit ton of victims' rights in Nevada. And I wonder if they actually respect victims' rights. If you have goddamn Kenny Capin, or if you have motherfucking Sam Jepsen or Troy Zinn, if you have Nick Vilela or Hiram Richardson or Noah Spalding, if you have Bertini and Robert Pickrell, Roman, and did I mention what's that motherfucker's name? Gibson, fucking Cynthia, Kenneth something. All those motherfuckers are allowed to commit all the crimes in the world. So if you call the police and you say any of those people's names, apparently those motherfuckers, Phil Greeny, Michael Gonzalez and Ann Kelly sucks Phil Greeny's dick. Phil Greeny's allowed to commit all the crimes that he wants to in Costilla County. The cops ain't going to do shit. The courts ain't going to do shit. The lawyers, the judges, nobody gives a shit about crimes or victims' rights. That's weird because we threw out Alonzo Payne for not enforcing victims' rights, and here they are continuing to not enforce victims' rights. So really, we probably should throw out the whole fucking system. The whole system needs to be fucking thrown out. We have a right to peacefully assemble. That's America, the First Amendment, CRS 189-109. The one good thing about Colorado law is that they actually say you have a right to peacefully assemble. And if anybody breaks that freedom up, that's a crime. It's like a petty misdemeanor or some shit, but that's 189-108. We peacefully assembled. I remember we would, in high school, just park our cars in the BP parking lot. It was over there in the corner, and it was before BP, actually, and it was over to the side. It probably wasn't even, we said BP parking lot, but it was just the corner, and I don't even know if they owned it or not, but the cops would always have us disperse. Can we meet at the school? Can we find some fucking public spot that we all could just chill at? We used to go cruising up and down the fucking road, but the cops are a bunch of piles of shit, and they didn't want us to cruise, I guess. But we have a right to peacefully assemble. That's the First Amendment to the Constitution. And in Colorado, if you're a cop and you try to disperse, that's a crime. You could get arrested. That's citizen's arrest. No, you're trying to disperse a peaceful assembly, so I'm going to make a citizen's arrest. You're making an unlawful arrest. You're trying to, no, that's unlawful kidnapping. I'm going to arrest. No, as a citizen, I'm making the arrest. Colorado in America also protects the right to contracts. That's absolute. The right to equal protection of the law is 14th Amendment. Freedom from military rule, Section 22 of Colorado's Bill of Rights. The states are free to coin silver and gold, Article 1, Section 10. The freedom from unreasonable search and seizures, that's the 4th Amendment. The right to revolution. Colorado straight up has a right to revolution, Section 2, if it's necessary for our peace and happiness. Let's take a look at Colorado Section 2, Article 2. So I did that backwards, but hopefully, okay. People may alter or abolish the form of government. So in Colorado, it straight up says you can abolish the government. But in Nevada, it says that you can alter or reform it. What was the language of the right to revolution? For Colorado, you have a right to just alter or reform. What was it? It was something like that, but not abolish. You have a right to alter or reform. You can alter the government or you can reform the government. And actually, when I think about my revolution, it's a constitutional convention with a strong Bill of Rights. So that I have a right to alter. That's reforming the government. That's altering the government. That's not anything of, that could easily be done peacefully, with domestic tranquility. So that's not repugnant to anything, right? If you peacefully say, okay, we're going to have this Constitution and these Bill of Rights. Now, the rights of the accused, jeopardy, due process. What am I trying to say here? You have a right to alter, reform the government whenever the public good may require it. Now it says here that the people of Colorado have the sole and exclusive right of governing ourselves as a free and sovereign and independent state, and to alter and abolish our constitution and form of government whenever we deem it necessary. So they break it down too, not just the constitution, but they say form of government. So they don't say abolish the government, just the form of government. So you got to keep the state, you got to keep the government, or the idea that there's a ruling class, the governorship, the capital, whenever they may deem it necessary to our safety and happiness. So those are the two very important things in Colorado's, the heart of Colorado. What do we want for Coloradans? We want happiness, and we want people to feel safe. And if we don't have happiness and safety, a critical mass of people in Colorado, you can overthrow the government. That's a right to revolution. It's more of an explicit right to revolution. We have a right to vote, Section 5. We have a right to life, 5th Amendment, 14th Amendment. The right to petition, that's the First Amendment. The freedom from religious test for public office, that's Article 6, Clause 3 of the American Constitution. So you don't have to take a religious test in order to become a fucking comptroller. You have a right to petition. You have a right to life. You have a right to vote, Section 5 of Colorado's Bill of Rights. So that's nice, right? We got a right to vote, a right to access to the courts, and a right to revolution. Well, they fucked up my right to vote, and then they fucked up that Conejos recorder fucked up my right to vote, and then the Conejos Costilla fucking judge fucked up my right to courts and the right victims' rights. They're not enforcing the law at all. They're not enforcing the fucking law at all. I actually took great comfort in the law, because coming from a house of abuse, well, them motherfuckers didn't give a shit about what was right or wrong. They had no morals. They liked attacking people, and child abuse is wrong. You can't abuse. It's illegal. You can't abuse children in Kentucky. That is not a legal thing to do. So they were ignoring the law on top of it. So they didn't have the law. They didn't have morality. They had nothing. And so when I read the law, it's like, well, shit, I don't have to convince you that I'm doing good and right and proper. All I got to do is abide by the law, abide by your code, abide by your rules. And another good thing about the law, especially with America, since we protect our civil liberties, if you don't know what to do, then shit, read your Bill of Rights. Maybe I could do an initiative, a referendum, a recall. Maybe I have a right to courts, a right to an impartial jury trial. Let's see, right to subpoena witnesses, right? You have right to petition, right to peacefully assemble, the freedom of the press, right to home rule, the right to serve legal papers. So you have options. When you're like, what can I do? I'm in this predicament. What can I do? That's the spirit of the law. That's the spirit of the law. So actually you have a shit ton of fucking options. If we all are Americans and we give a shit about our civil liberties. I even heard that Napoleon was sitting there talking good about civil liberties. And apparently civil liberties appeal to a certain kind of man. And I always consider myself a leftist. But the older and older I get, it's just kind of like, where the fuck are the leftists that give a shit about my Bill of Rights? You're so anti-Second Amendment, you're against the Third, Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment, you're against all my fucking freedoms. You don't want me to defend myself whatsoever. When it comes to natural law, Hobbes says the right to defend myself is the number one. That's rule number one. You go as far as you can with peace, and then when peace is not possible, then it's war. You have a right to defend yourself, and as a nation, we have a right to defend ourselves too, which is revolution. So there's a little bit of a contrast between Nevada's Bill of Rights and Colorado's.